Hello everybody. Today I'm just going to kind of go over scenarios. We're closing in on the funding here, so I kind of wanted to highlight each scenario and get you excited about them, and let's just jump right into it. So in the base game, this is a scenario. It's called a breakthrough. When you draft it from the wormhole, you're going to get an additional action for that turn, or you may discard it to destroy a column or a row to kind of help clean up your board, or maybe you're hunting for a specific color or you're hunting for a specific symbol. Breakthroughs are great. They had to be in the first game because we love them so much, and so we wanted them to be in the base game. The next ones up are alliances. Now, alliances, there's one of each color, and they kind of act like a bank. In Paradox, whenever you create a time strand and you earn the energy, you must spend that energy immediately. You can't save it between actions or turns. So alliances are out on the table in a public area, and they kind of act like a bank. So whenever you make a resource of that color, you can take that alliance. So if you see here, I need red to complete Elysium, and I don't have the red plus here. I could make it up there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you if I make a blue, because I'm hunting for colors, but also I want this to drop down. Now I made this blue, and I don't have anywhere to spend it. I can't spend it here, I can't spend it here. What I can do is when you're playing with alliances, I can spend that one blue resource, go ahead and take the blue alliance. Now it's going to give me one victory point if I have that at the end of the game. But during any of my turns that I have an alliance, you can use it to pay for cards. So it's like I had banked that blue. So let's say I have the past here. I could use this alliance to pay one blue towards the past. Now, if this comes unlocked, alliances are going to be a a cardboard chevron, like a chip, and you'll be able to place it on here. So it'll kind of be like a chip here, but it won't be a card. And as you pay for this and it moves down, the risk about alliances is that they are very fickle. So other players can spend a blue to send that back to neutral. So that's very risky on if you try to hold on to them for victory points, or you try to pay for a card with them without completing it. The longer you sit on it, the more chance you have of someone sniping it away from you. Let's see here. So that's alliances. They kind of act like a bank. We really like them. That's why we kind of put them as the second or the first unlockable scenario. They give a little bit of a buffer for new players as they play, because sometimes new players don't understand that sometimes it's okay to waste a resource when you're going to look for a new color or a new symbol. So that's alliances. The second one I want to talk about is flares. Now, we talked about breakthroughs. Those come in the base game. Those are considered a major scenario. Flares are also a major scenario, so you can only play with one of the major scenarios. So when you play with flares, you remove breakthroughs from the deck. That means that flares come up in the wormhole, and when you draft one, they go in the pass spot here. So you have 4 turns in order to resolve a flare. Now, a flare requires, in order to resolve it, requires you to make the color and in the sequence here. So it's requiring you to make a yellow time strand. Then after you make a yellow time strand, it would like you to make a blue, and then a red will finally resolve the flare. Each time that you resolve one of these steps, you're going to earn a benefit. Now, flares do not consume the resource when you make that type of time strand. So if I make a yellow time strand here, I may spend that yellow resource as normal. I take one of the discarded chips and place it on the flare to show that I have made a yellow time strand, and then I may immediately take that ability. So you see here I can remove one chip from my board. Let's see here, what can I go ahead and get rid of? So I can go ahead and get rid of this yellow chip, and it'll fall down. The second ability is remove an entire row or a column, and the third is you get to resolve it, put it in your score pile for 2 victory points. But it has a secondary ability that you may remove it from your score pile, remove it from the game, and earn an additional action. So you kind of have to balance that. Do I want the 2 victory points, or do I want the extra action that may get me more victory points by using it? And that's flares. We really enjoy flares because as they travel down your board, they start to give you a little bit of a guidance on what you're going to do next. Now, I know I'm going to want to do something. I'm going to want to make blue, so I'm going to want to take something I can put blue in. So that's flares. Let's see here. Next up we have is maelstroms. Now, maelstroms work a little bit differently. They actually trigger off of the purple chips. So if we can go ahead and get maelstroms unlocked, you're going to receive 5 purple chips. These purple chips will go into the bag, and then as they're drawn out, they will trigger these maelstroms. Now, maelstroms are 1 of each color, and they require 2 energy in order to resolve them. They get shuffled up, placed off to the side of the player board here, and the rule with the purple chips is there's 2 different speeds in which you can trigger. There's a normal speed and a slow speed. Normal is whenever you pull out number of purple chips equal to the number of players. So in a 3-player game, it would be 3 chips. So when the 3rd chip gets pulled, you flip over a card. The slow way to play that is, if you don't like these to cycle so much, is to do +1 the number of players, which will be 4 for a 3-player game. So what happens is every time a player pulls out a purple chip, it just stays out here on the board. And once you build up to that trigger number, so let's say it was 4, we then flip over a maelstrom. Now, the maelstroms are basically these anomalies that are going to trap timeline cards. So when we come over to the cleanup phase and we start to refill the stable and unstable wormhole, that first card that comes off the top, if it is a timeline card or a nexus card, it goes and gets trapped by the maelstrom. So maelstroms are kind of like a race. It's the first person to get there to resolve it can take the card that is trapped. So by paying 2 black, I can immediately take the present here of Alforia and place it in my score pile, and it doesn't move the quake at all whenever you resolve a maelstrom. So these are really exciting. Sometimes you want your worlds to get trapped, sometimes you don't. They're really neat, really exciting, and I enjoy playing with them. The other scenario that triggers off of the purples in the same manner are forms. Now, forms are my newly favorite scenario. I'm really excited about them because they really change the flow of the game, and they are considered kind of an advanced play because they make you think really hard. So what happens is we're going to same thing with purples. Whenever we reach that trigger point of the number of purples out, this goes ahead and moves. So if you see here in the beginning of the game, we can make rows and columns just as normal Paradox is. But whenever this moves into 2x2 and 2x3, we can then only make 2x2s and 2x3s in matching. So for example here, I can go ahead and, that'll make a match. We'll go ahead and do that. And then that. So what I did is I made a 2x3. So these would clear out, and I get 2 resources for a 2x3. So you can see it's less efficient as you go this way. The last of them is diagonals. Now, diagonals are very hard because there's minimal ways that you can make 5s, and you don't use these 4 chips in a sense in order to make a match. So they're very hard. So as this thing goes this way, it gets harder and harder to generate a lot of resources on your turn. So every time, so once diagonals are done, you know all the chips go back in the bag between each one, and then once we hit that trigger point again, it cycles back to rows and columns. So this is constantly cycling, and that's where the normal and slow mode come in. It depends on how much you want this to cycle. So that's forms. That's my favorite right now. I really enjoy playing with that. And the last one that we have here is warp cards. Now, warp cards work where every player starts with one at the beginning of the game. And anytime during the wormhole phase, they may skip taking a card and place it here in the past. And now they have 4 turns, while this slides down before it gets lost, they have 4 turns in order to use their warp. So they can discard their warp and take an additional card that turn. So if they were able to only take 1 card that turn, they can go ahead and take 2 cards that turn. And that's pretty much it. As you can see, each one kind of changes the game a little bit in different ways. I hope you're getting excited about them, and hopefully we can lock them, because I can't see Paradox without some of these scenarios, because I play with them so much. Alright, well, thank you guys very much. See you later.